Canadians are proud of our fair, compassionate and rules-based system, Mr. Speaker. We need to get back to it. In fact, all Canadians, including new Canadians, Mr. Speaker, want us to get back to that system because they followed it. And their success here has been tremendous, Mr. Speaker. We will get back to it once again, Mr. Speaker, after election 2019.
Statements by members. Déclaration de député. L'honorable.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, for 2 years, Ottawa has been showing that it is incompetent when it comes to managing migration. They have no triage plan, no plan to accelerate the processing of asylum seekers or working permits, no compensation for the $300 million that Quebec paid. And they drop the ball every time on this file, and yet they're going to sign the Marrakesh Pact on migration. The Prime Minister's strategy on migrants is to do nothing and let Quebec pay. And now he's going before the UN to sermonize there. He's going to sign a pact that includes measures, nearly all of which fall under Quebec jurisdiction and cost Quebecers money, without having negotiated with Quebec and without having a debate in the House. He needs to start taking his responsibility when it comes to the migration crisis in Quebec. He needs to agree with Quebec and have a debate in this House. We can't simply give a blank check to an incompetent federal government.
Member for Mount Royal.
On the 70th anniversary of the UN's adoption of the Genocide Convention, we live in a world where this most atrocious of crimes still exists. This House has recently recognized that Yazidis and Rohingyas were victims of genocide. But even in our own land, we are seeing increases in hate crimes targeting the Jewish, Muslim, and Black communities. Concerns and fear have increased. Action is needed. Genocide must be taught in our schools. I want to congratulate the Foundation for Genocide Education, founder Heidi Berger, members Lucy Shapiro and Marcy Brock, who convinced the Quebec Education Ministry to create a genocide teaching guide which will be introduced in all Quebec high schools in 2019. Let us all call on our provinces and territories to introduce mandatory genocide education so that Canada's youth will learn the consequences of hate and intolerance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well said.
The Honourable Member for Durham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to recognize the exceptional service of one of my constituents. Willie Wu retired last week after 12 years as a local and regional councillor in Clarington, Mr. Speaker, and his personal story is inspiring. Willie is the child of Chinese immigrants, Mr. Speaker, who grew up in the apartment over the restaurant that his family operated in Newcastle, Ontario for over 30 years. A family that had to pay the head tax when they arrived saw their son grow to be the most respected leader in our community, Mr. Speaker. He also had an exceptional political slogan, Willie Wu for you. You know, Mr. Speaker, if you were from Durham, he was for you. Hundreds of council meetings, thousands of events where Willie was a champion and a positive force in politics. He was a huge friend and advisor to me, and I will miss our annual tradition of ending Remembrance Day having a pint in the Snug pub in Newcastle. The Snug is located where his family restaurant once was, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for being for us, Willie. Best to you and Donna on your next adventure.
The Honourable Member for Avignon, La Métis, Matane, Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, as the Canada Summer Jobs Call for Proposals opens in a few weeks, I would like to report the testimony of Sonia Lavoie, owner of the Auberge Brune Océane in Matane. On November 27th, she contacted our constituency office to thank our government for allowing her to benefit from the Canada Summer Jobs Program. Thanks to the program, this small business was able to hire a student for the summer, which made a huge difference to the owner and her employees. With this support, Ms. Lavoie was able to give her staff and herself better working hours and provide the quality services that have made our region famous. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind this House that Canada Summer Jobs is an important program that has significant impacts on employers in Avignon, La Métis, Matane, Matapédia. Let's continue to support our job creators because they are our drivers of regional economic development.
L'honorable député de Jean-Pierre.
The Honourable Member for Jean-Pierre. Today I'd like to acknowledge the exceptional work of Michel Potvin, a citizen in my riding and a volunteer for nearly 60 years. Throughout Quebec, Mr. Potvin has mobilized to provide assistance to people in need. A Red Cross volunteer since 1996, he's been involved in several major operations, such as the repatriation of Canadian nationals during the 2010 Haiti earthquake or the Lac Mégantic disaster. Recently, when a tornado struck here in the region, Mr. Potvin came to help the victims by helping to manage the Gatineau shelter. He provided frontline assistance and moral support to the victims of the tornado. Also, let's not forget that Michel Potvin already received the Hommage Bénévolat Québec Award, which recognizes the exceptional commitment and contribution of volunteers. This award is intended to recognize the efforts of citizens in their communities. So I say thank you to Mr. Potvin on behalf of those he's helped during his many years of volunteer work.
Honorable député de Marc.
The Honourable Member for Marc-Aurèle-Fortin. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to take a moment to recognize the exceptional work that our volunteers do every day from coast to coast to coast. People with big hearts, people whose devotion knows no limits, and people who make a real difference in their communities. Today, I'd like to pay particular tribute to the exceptional work done by the volunteers in my riding, who give their hearts and souls to ensure the well-being of their fellow citizens. To all of you, on behalf of myself and all of our fellow citizens, I say thank you for your generosity, thank you for your compassion, thank you for your time, and above all, thank you for your perpetual goodwill. It brings happiness to our hearts. Happy holidays to all.
The honourable member for Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, under the red nose of a Prime Minister who preaches the word tolerance by practicing bigotry against Christians, it's still Christmas in the Ottawa Valley. Congratulations to no fewer than 14 communities: Arnprior and Barry's Bay, Whitney and Eganville, Beachburg and Killaloe, Talabogie and Pembroke, Cobden and Renfrew, Deep River and Westmeath, Palmer Rapids and Petawawa, who celebrated the birth of our Lord and Savior with Christmas parades. As Christians in Canada briefly celebrate the election year climb down by the Liberal government that used students looking for work last summer to attack Christian churches, and as Christians gather together and pray for members of the Early Rain Covenant Church in China who are suffering from a vicious state crackdown of their own, let us never forget the true meaning of Christmas. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
The Honourable Member for Miramichi-Grand Lake.
Speaker, the Chipman Youth Centre is nothing short of amazing. Their small staff, led by Faith Kennedy, are truly changing lives for the better in their community. The Chipman Youth Centre offers many opportunities to the children of their rural areas, such as low-cost after-school care, dance class, crock-pot cooking, a girls' self-esteem program, a library program, babysitting class, an adopt-a-grandparent program, just to name a few. Their village youth team members volunteer with not-for-profit organizations in the area. The program is designed to keep young people of Chipman active in their community and to help them develop excellent work ethics and leadership skills while gaining valuable experience. This past summer, this amazing group of just 17 youth volunteered 1,119.5 hours. I ask my colleague to join me in applauding the Chipman Youth Centre and all their volunteers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Mr. Speaker, I am honoured to acknowledge the remarkable and constant work of Vestshell, which has just won the Prix Performance Québec 2018 in the Independent Manufacturing Small and Medium Enterprise category. Since 1964, Vestshell has been serving several industries, such as the aerospace, nuclear, and medical sectors, among others. In addition, Vestshell is recognized in Canada, the US, and Europe for the quality of its products. This award represents the highest distinction awarded by Quebec to outstanding companies. So I'm very pleased that a company based in Montreal North, in the riding of Bourassa, that received this honor. My congratulations to the President, Mr. Joseph Laflamme, and to Vestchel's wonderful employees. Well done.
Honourable member for Haldeman Norfolk.
Well, Mr. Speaker, 'tis the season for traditions. In my home, it's opening the stockings and funning and feasting with family. In my riding, it's Santa Claus parades, Christmas concerts, and lighting up the parks that mark this special season. Here at work, we celebrate with Santa, with the kids, trees in our offices, and by flipping the switch on the spectacular Parliament Hill Lights Show. The halls of Centre Block sparkle with red ribbon trees and garlands, and of course, there's always the MP for Cape Breton's annual irreverent version of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. They're all part of what makes this house feel like a home. Mr. Speaker, as this will be the last Christmas in this chamber, well, for most of us, let's hope that many of these traditions that we hold dear continue in the new place. To my colleagues here, to my constituents, from Long Point to Lowbanks, from Caledonia to Kelvin and Cortland, I wish you all happy Christmas, happy holidays, and a wonderful new year.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. The honourable member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
Mr. Speaker, with apologies to my Irish colleagues. Bon echoes clean, the Highland scene, the prettiest riding you've ever seen. It's Christmas in my riding with all of the folks at home. The bright light show reflects on snow, and all the people of Napanee go to celebrate that town, of course, because they feel at home. World doors are always open at Christmas time in Tweed. And Mr. Speaker, before you go tomorrow, I'll leave. Back off, hearts are late, fast spirits are bright. Medoc celebrates with joy tonight. It's Christmas in my riding with all of the folks at home. We'll decorate our Christmas trees in Sterling and Dundee. All around Stone Mills Township and Greater Napanee. There's gifts to bring and songs to sing and laughs to make this Toronto ring. It's Christmas in my riding with all of the folks at home. Hooray! Christmas!
For baritone, Scanito Hartzell. Order à l'ordre. Honorable.
The Honourable Member for Shepherd. Mr. Speaker, at the end of an exceptional season, the youth football team Les Élites from the Collège Mont-Sacré-Cœur in Granby won the grand final of the Eastern Townships League for the very first time in its young history. I'd like to congratulate these young athletes who distinguished themselves by their intensity, discipline, and by the quality of their performance. They've shown an incredible team spirit. The final match was very spectacular, and the tight score throughout the game helped to create an electrifying atmosphere among all of the fans. I'd like to acknowledge the support of the entire college for the football program. Claude Lacroix, Executive Director, Benoit Pinel, Program Initiator, Réal Brunel, the current headmaster, and the head coach, Mr. Claude Lessard. I'd like to thank the parents for their support, and once again, congratulations to the champions of the Eastern Townships League, the Élites from the Collège Mont-Sacré-Cœur.
The honourable member for Bruce Grey, Owen Sound.
'Twas the month before Christmas, and all through this house, Canadians miffed Liberals quiet as a mouse. Taxpayers hung stockings by the chimney with care, with fear that the carbon tax soon would be there. The cabinet were nestled all smug in their beds, while visions of deficits danced in their heads. When out on the borders there arose such a clatter, PM says, open the borders, what does it matter? To the window the finance minister flew like a flash. He tore open the shutters and threw out more cash. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a ministerial sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver, could it be St. Nick? No, it was little Jerry Butts. It was just a trick. With a sleigh full of handouts, in they came. Jerry whistled and shouted and called them by name. On deficits, on spending, on with the fiscal mess, all of this contributing to Canadian stress. 'Twas the night before Christmas. October 19 is near. We'll throw them out and replace them with Andrew Scheer.
first member knows that we don't refer to members by their personal names in the House. The Honourable, yeah, he's obviously very new, I guess. The Honourable Member for Thunder Bay, Rainy River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As we approach the end of the year and the closing of Centre Block, I would like to take this time on behalf of all members of this House to thank the dedicated parliamentary personnel who work hard to make our jobs possible. As parliamentary staff embody a high level of professionalism, such as Constables Robert Poirier and Michelle Reynaud of the Parliamentary Protective Service. Both will be retiring this January after 30 years of service. I speak for all members here when I thank them for their hard work and dedication to duty and wish them all the best in their future. I would also like to thank the work of the staff and the supervisor of catering services, cafeterias, and parliamentary dining room, Dino Storti. Dino has provided over 14 years of excellent service to members of both houses and all parties. It is because of him and his tireless team's effort that events and receptions here can go off without a hitch, and we appreciate his hard work. Dino for the president. The parliamentarian personnel's excellence is a service to all Canadians and this country. On behalf of all of us here, thank you and have a very Merry Christmas and extraordinary New Year. Merci. Thank you and miigwech.
The Honourable Member for Kootenay, Columbia.
Dear Santa, my name is Wayne, and I live in Kootenay, Columbia. I've tried to be a good boy this year. Didn't heckle even once in question period, but I did shake my head a lot of times. My Christmas list is short, but it means a lot to me. I would like fair and timely settlements of labor agreements for our postal workers, our parliamentary protective service officers, our border security officers. That in the future, all trade agreements would make agriculture the #1 priority. That the federal, provincial, and municipal governments and all Canadians would work together to fight climate change. That in our new House of Commons and West Block, we will always put principles ahead of politics. And that all of our parliamentary family will stay safe over the holiday season. I know that's a lot to ask for, Santa, but maybe if you team up with a higher power, the two of you can deliver on it. Thanks, Santa, and Merry Christmas. But P.S., I'm only leaving out carrots for both you and the reindeer this year. I'm a little concerned about your weight.
I trust the member doesn't think that I'm Santa. The
Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, 2018 is nearing its end, and we can look back on the failures of the Liberal government. Looking at the management of public funds, well, for a third consecutive year, we have another budget that is not balanced, and there's no plan to balance it. There's been no respect for our borders. Roxham Road is still there, thanks to the Prime Minister's unfortunate tweet, which is going to cost us $1 billion. Also, failure in terms of natural resources, Mr. Speaker. Not 1 inch of pipeline has been built under this Prime Minister. He's insulted pipeline workers, and he's also taken billions of taxpayer money and sent it to Houston. He also had a particularly embarrassing and shameful trip to India, and despite the trade agreement with the U.S. and Mexico, the tariffs for steel and aluminum, as well as softwood lumber, still exist. This is directly affecting Canadians' jobs. But fortunately, 2019 is coming, and Canadians will be able to say bye-bye to the Liberal government.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie.
Mr. Speaker, we've got some great visitors in the House today. We're honored to welcome 14 filles du roi who came to Canada in La Prairie, or descendants of those king's daughters. Louis XIV decided to populate the new colony of New France by sending these women, and they were an important economic driver. Only 10 years after the first king's daughters arrived, Canada's population tripled. So we can essentially consider them as the daughters of the nation. The working group for the King's Daughters in Montreal is going to be organizing an exhibition about their arrival in Canada. And they also want to commemorate the 22nd of September to underline the first arrival of the King's Daughters. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish happy holidays to my colleagues, the pages, and all staff. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions orales, oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised to balance the budget next year, but now he's admitted that we're going to have a huge deficit. The Parliamentary Budget Officer announced today that the deficit could hit $11 billion more than what originally had been announced by the Prime Minister. If that's true, it would increase the deficit to $30 billion per year. Not only did the Prime Minister say that he would balance the budget, so why has he misled Canadians with regard to the deficit? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, here are the benefits of a real economic plan. We have the lowest unemployment rate in 40 years. We have added 700,000 new jobs in the last 2 years, and each family has about $2,000 more in its pockets than under the Conservatives. We have a plan to invest in the middle class to help grow the economy. For 10 years, the Conservatives had a very bad economic performance, a bad economic growth. We promised Canadians we would deliver, and we did.
Simply not the case. But here is what the Prime Minister said about deficits during the last election. He said, quote, that his plan to get back to balanced budgets was very set in stone, and that he was looking straight at Canadians and being honest. The budget will be balanced in 2019. Now we found out a couple weeks ago that that was not the case, that he had smashed through his promise and had racked up massive deficits of almost $20 billion. But if that wasn't bad enough, today we find out that it's going to be even worse. Almost $30 billion next year. Why did the Prime Minister mislead Canadians in the last election?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
In the last election, Mr. Speaker, we made a promise to Canadians that we would invest in the middle class and grow the economy, because for 10 years they had had a Conservative government under Stephen Harper that gave benefits and advantages to the wealthiest and didn't have growth to show for it. So we took a 1% growth rate under the Conservatives, turned it into a 3% growth rate. We created 700,000 new jobs over the past 3 years, and right now have the lowest unemployment rate in recorded history in Canada. We are moving forward on a way that invests in Canadians and builds for their...
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister's record is actually very clear. He's raised taxes on the middle class, but given those who have inherited great wealth through trust funds, he's protected their assets. It's no wonder that the Prime Minister doesn't worry about the impacts of his irresponsible spending, Mr. Speaker. He's never had to worry about money. But Canadians are worried about the legacy of deficits that he is placing on their shoulders. Does he really believe that Canadians don't understand that they're on the hook for his irresponsible spending?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, they want to talk legacy of debts. They added $150 billion to Canada's national debt but this is the kicker, with nothing to show for it. The lowest highest growth rate under the Conservatives since the Great Depression. We came forward with a positive plan to invest in Canadians, and that's what we did. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? It's working. Our plan has delivered the lowest unemployment in 40 years, has created 700,000 new jobs. The Conservatives have no plan other than the failed policies of Stephen Harper.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister knows that that is just not true. The previous Conservative government got through a global recession and came roaring back with the greatest job growth in the G7. That's the situation that he inherited. He inherited great fortune, Mr. Speaker, and not just personally. A global booming economy lifting up Canada. And what did he do with that? He squandered it. He's racked up now almost $30 billion worth of just deficits alone. Canadians are going to have to pay that back. Will he finally admit that his budget is spiraling out of control and that under his watch deficits are here to stay?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what the Conservatives continue to not understand is their efforts to phonily balance the budget just in time for the election, cut millions from veterans by closing their service centres, cut millions from hardworking Canadians from coast to coast to coast, whether it's the Canadian Border Services Agency, whether it's hardworking Canadians getting short shrift by their cuts to programs. Mr. Speaker, their obsession with providing a phony balance for an election hurt Canadians. We invested in Canadians and have the positive results to show for it. They had no plan.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
You are darn right that we are obsessed with treating taxpayers' dollars responsibly.
Order. Well, I like being told I'm darn right. Doesn't happen very often. I don't think the Honourable Leader was referring to me, so I'd ask the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to direct his comments to the Chair.
I would hope that you are darn right about that too, Mr. Speaker. But he is darn right that we are fighting to treat taxpayers' dollars with respect. But he's never had to worry about money that he hasn't earned. And he is taking money from Canadians. He's raising their taxes. Canadian families are worse off under this government. He attacked small businesses and those that create jobs in our community while protecting those who inherited trust funds. That is the legacy under this government. The cost of living keeps going up, deficits keep going up, and he has to raise taxes to pay for his out-of-control spending. When will he finally admit that the budget will never balance itself?
All right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, you can tell when the Conservatives resort to petty personal attacks that they have nothing to say on the basis of facts. What we have done was invested in Canadians, invested historic amounts in infrastructure, put more money in the pockets of the middle class so that kids across this country with the Canada Child Benefit can get better school supplies, have better after-school programs, have new shoes and boots for the winter. We know that investing in Canadians is the way to grow the economy because for 10 years they couldn't do it, and that's exactly what we did. The lowest unemployment in 40 years.
Order. The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope and others, I hope, will come to order. Order. We have too much noise. Order. I thank colleagues for trying to get some order.
The Honourable Member. The United States require local content guarantees in their request for proposals for public transit. Same with China. But Canada? Well, it seems there's nothing we can do. Our hands are tied by trade deals. That's ridiculous. And we see once again that Quebec Liberal MPs don't have much influence. The United States require a minimum threshold of 65% of local content and that the final assembly be carried out on U.S. territory. But they've said the same they've signed the same trade agreements we have, so why are the Liberals backing down when it comes to defending the rights of Canadians? We are investing hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayers' money, and when we do so, we want the best deal for all Quebecers and Canadians. When companies take part in requests for proposals, they're involved from the start. What the Conservatives are asking for is for political interference, which will be bad for Canadians. That's unacceptable. We recognize Canadian expertise in transportation, and we are convinced that we have the best workers in the world. That's why we are always going to support them, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member.
Of paper. The Prime Minister doesn't know this file. The Prime Minister doesn't know the position of his own government. Let's try this. Let's try this. This morning, the Canadian Union of Postal Workers filed with Ontario's Superior Court to challenge a legislation that forced its members back to work without a collective agreement. You know what, Mr. Speaker? They've been down that road before, and they have won. This Prime Minister has painted himself as a friend of Labour. But where's the proof of this when he's willing to trample on Labour's constitutional right to ensure bottom-line profits to companies and corporations? How is this Prime Minister different from Stephen Harper?
The Right Honourable the Prime Minister.
The anti-Labour legislation passed by Stephen Harper, 575 and 377. We know that those are the things that matter to Labour, and for the past 3 years, we have worked constructively with organised Labour across this country, showing meaningful progress and understanding the tripartite principles that means Labour, government, and industry and industry work together to create better opportunities for the middle class. We have been a solid partner to Labour. We will continue to do that. We will take no lessons from the NDP.
The honourable member for Joliette. The more things change, the more they stay the same. As with the Conservatives in 2011, the Liberals have imposed back-to-work legislation on Canada Post employees. As with the Conservative legislation, the Liberal legislation is being challenged before the courts. By imitating the Conservatives, the Liberals are showing us that they are the party of corporations, not of Labour. Aren't the Liberals ashamed that they are doing exactly the same thing the Conservatives did and are denying the right to postal workers to free collective bargaining? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. We've done everything to encourage Canada Post and the union to negotiate a new collective agreement. We hired mediators and then a special mediator, and then we asked them to agree to voluntary arbitration, but the two parties did not agree. We only tabled a bill when every recourse had been exhausted. We appointed Ms. Elizabeth McPherson as the arbiter. She has 90 days to work with the parties to settle all outstanding litigation.
That you trampled on their charter rights.
I hope the honourable member isn't suggesting that I trampled on someone's charter rights, of course. I do ask that she redirect her comments to the chair, of course.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the Prime Minister is trampling on collective bargaining rights. This Liberal government refused to award a $1 billion contract to build new Via Rail trains to Canada's Bombardier. Instead, they awarded the contract to a German, California-based company, Siemens. Why? Because the Liberals know that using Canadian companies for procurement can get us sued by the EU under the investor state provisions in CETA. When Liberals called CETA a gold standard in trade, Canadians had no idea that meant giving away their jobs to foreign companies. Why do Liberals and Conservatives keep signing us on to trade deals that hand good-paying jobs to other countries?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are proud of our Canadian workers and our companies, and indeed, we know they can successfully compete right around the world. And signing trade deals allows us to access procurement opportunities around the world so we can see things like Bombardier trains in Africa, in Asia, and around the world. We will continue to promote the extraordinary quality of work that is done by Canadian companies around the world. We know that as we engage in trade, we create better opportunities for our workers, better opportunities for all Canadians.
Honourable member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, long ago in a galaxy far, far away, the Prime Minister wrote a mandate letter to the Minister of Finance. And what he said was, I expect Canadians to hold us accountable for delivery of these commitments, and I expect ministers to do their part. And the number one priority for the Minister of Finance was to make sure Canada's finances are sound by respecting a balanced budget in 2019. Mr. Speaker, troubling news out of the Parliamentary Budget Officer's report indicates that we could be looking at another $11 billion next year in deficit, which would be, if true, almost $30 billion. Mr. Speaker, my question to the Prime Minister is this. Does he still believe budgets will balance?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, our plan and our commitment to Canadians was to grow the economy and ensure that our economy worked for all. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of failed Conservative policies, we saw low unemployment rates, we didn't see growth, but thanks to our plan and our Prime Minister's leadership, we have seen wages grow, we have seen the lowest unemployment rate on record, and as a result, we have the best financials in the G7. We won't take the Conservatives' advice on how to not grow the economy.
Honourable Member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, now buried at the back of the fall update was actually a report card on the government written by the government. And in it, what they talk about is their status update on the promises that were made in mandate letters. Interestingly enough, balancing the budget in 2019, again, appears as the number 3 overall responsibility of the government. And what is the update? Actions taken, progress made, facing challenges. And balance the budget.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, it's really sad to see that the Conservatives continue to think lifting 300,000 children out of poverty isn't progress made. It's sad to see that the Conservatives don't think creating 700,000 new jobs is progress made. The Conservatives won't be happy until our economy is tanking, but millionaires are taken care of. But on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we're focused on Canadians, we're focused on lowering taxes for the middle class, lowering taxes for small businesses, and as a result, Mr. Speaker, promise delivered.
Alors.
Order. The Honourable Member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, the Parliamentary Budget Officer has just unveiled his new fall report, and the situation is even worse than what was expected. For next year alone, and we haven't even started 2019, we already know that the 2019 deficit will be $11 billion higher than expected for a total of $30 billion. This is a huge amount, which adds to the deficit of the 3 previous years. My question is simple: when will the government balance the budget?
And the Conservatives don't want to take the facts as good enough, because the fact is our debt to GDP ratio is steadily on the downward track. A typical Canadian family is $2,000 better off under our plan. We have, by the investments we've made, we've seen that over 700,000 new jobs created. Mr. Speaker, we have one of the best records in the G7, but the Conservatives don't get it. Their failed plan under Stephen Harper didn't work, and they continue to have no plan to really grow the economy and create an economy that works.
The Honourable Member for Richmond, Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, allow me to do a bit of math with the Parliamentary Secretary. Accumulated deficits since the beginning of the Liberal mandate represent $100 billion. What is that? What can that get you? Well, that can get you 20 connections between Quebec and Lévis, hundreds of Ottawa Sense arenas, $1 million worth of repairs to Canadian roads, or 60 return trips on the Trans-Canada Highway from coast to coast. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, if the Conservatives want to talk math, let's talk math. They added $150 billion in debt, and what did we get? Fake lakes and gazebos? They also had a steady GDP growth rate of 1% when they left office. When we came into office with our economic plan, we're seeing the growth rate at 3%. Our investments are to grow a more fair economy. We're reducing taxes on the middle class. We're reducing taxes for small businesses. We take no math lessons from the Conservatives.
Order. 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 The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, math lessons are precisely what this Prime Minister needs. Let's start with his promise. He said next year the deficit would be 0. And then in the fall update, he said it would be almost $20 billion. And now today, the Parliamentary Budget Officer confirms it could be another $11 billion on top of that, for a grand total of almost $30 billion in 1 year, the year when the budget was supposed to balance itself. Right. Will he finally admit that his deficit is spiraling right out of control?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I must correct the record. When the Conservatives left office, they added $150 billion to the debt, and they couldn't balance the budget. And on top of that, their plan was austerity and cuts on the backs of people like our veterans. Mr. Speaker, Canadians had a choice in 2015, and they chose a plan that put Canadians first and not conservative millionaires. As a result, we're reducing taxes on the middle class, we're lowering taxes for small businesses, and as a result, we're seeing the best growth that we've seen in decades, unlike the Conservatives.
Honourable member for Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, basically everything she just said there is false. Under the Conservatives, we had the strongest growth in the G7. We roared back from the great global recession with 1 million new jobs, and we left them with a balanced budget. So now that they're done with stating falsehoods about our record, let's tell the truth about their record. They are adding deficits this year 3 times the rate they promised, and next year threatens to be even bigger. Will the Prime Minister finally stand up and answer the simple question, in what year will the budget finally balance itself?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives think that their roaring plan had us back to a technical recession in 2015. They think that's success. On the other hand, Mr. Speaker, we knew that creating the right kinds of investments in Canadians was the best way to get our economy growing. And as a result, our plan is working. We've seen over 700,000 jobs created. We've seen lower taxes for a typical middle-class family. They're going to be $2,000 better off. We've seen wages grow after being anemic under the Conservatives. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives' plan is not...
The honourable member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, there is no consistent version in the Liberal Party with regard to the situation of the MP for Saint-Léonard Saint-Michel. The MP is still claiming that the Prime Minister has given him a secret mission, but the Prime Minister has provided no clarification. The Liberal whip said in September that the MP would be stepping down. Representing Canadians lies at the heart of our work. By today, the member for Saint-Léonard Saint-Michel has not set foot in this House since June. Can someone, anyone on the other side of this House, tell us the truth and what exactly the MP for Saint-Léonard Saint-Michel is doing? The honourable member. Mr. Speaker, every member of Parliament is accountable to his or her constituents for their work in Ottawa. The MP has stated publicly what his intentions are and has shared what issues he will be working on for his constituency. I have seen him today, Mr. Speaker.
Order, order. He's making a list. Order. Just nodding nicely, you know. Keep that in mind. Order. The honourable member for Timmins, James Bay.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the member for St. Léonard Saint-Michel alleged in the House this morning that the Prime Minister's office interfered with his attempt to resign. He also stated that the reason he has been so quiet is that the Prime Minister has tasked him with a special duty that overrides his obligation to Parliament while he still runs a business on the side. That makes this an issue of government business. So will the Prime Minister explain to us what is this top-secret project, and did his office attempt to interfere with his efforts to resign his position?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
We recognize that every member of Parliament is responsible to their constituents for their work in Ottawa. The member in question has publicly indicated his intention and has shared the issues on which he will be working on behalf of his community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Brantford-Brant.
Mismanagement by the Minister of Veterans Affairs has created massive backlogs of disability claims. We've known this for over a year, yet the backlog continues to get worse. The minister likes to compare his transition from TV host to minister with that of injured veterans struggling to rejoin the civilian world. But unlike veterans, he's never been made to wait in an endless line by the very government he had to pledge his life to. The minister owes veterans an apology.
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we had an announcement yesterday that built on our government's commitment to easing the transition between military life and the veterans' life. And like I said then, I know enough about the military to know that I would never compare my experience to that of a veteran. But I will say it gave me a peek into that window. And that fuels what I do. That fuels what I do and my mission, this government's mission, to make life better for veterans and for their families. We need to make sure that the supports are in place to help them with that transition, and yesterday's announcement is what that was all about, Mr. Speaker. That's right.
Alors.
Order. The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fiard. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Veterans Affairs said something very awkward when he compared his own transition from TV star to minister with the transitioning of military veterans, and that's unacceptable. When you speak to our brave veterans, you realize that each of them has their own story and experience. No one has gone through what they have. How can the minister claim to represent veterans when he doesn't understand them? The minister must apologize, and when will he do so? The honourable minister. Our government has made a commitment to helping veterans transition to civilian life. I know enough about the military to never claim exactly what veterans go through when they transition, but I have learned from their experiences. This year I organized public town halls throughout the country, and I've listened to the challenges they face when they transition. So we must give them the support they need to support them, and that's exactly what we are doing.
To compare the plight of veterans transitioning out of Canada's military for issues related to PTSD, and by the way, Minister, PTSD doesn't stand for post-tele...
Order. I've had to ask members several times today, of course, to direct their comments to the chair and not to people on the opposite side or even on their own side. The honourable member for Barrie-Innisfil.
Yes, to compare the plight of veterans transitioning out of Canada's military's issues related to PTSD, occupational stress, or injury to his own circumstances, transitioning out of television broadcasting is ridiculous. I asked the Minister of Veterans Affairs how many times did he come close to being shot, or worse yet, witness a comrade who was shot or blown up by an IED. The reaction from the veterans community was disbelief. Will the Minister apologize to Canada's veterans?
The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, I wish I could say I was surprised that the member opposite would rather make personal attacks than talk about the new transition group. But I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity to talk about ensuring a seamless transition to post-military life is essential to the well-being of veterans and their families. The transition group will improve the transition services with personalized guided support and special care for those who are ill and injured. We will not be distracted in our mission to veterans and their families, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Barrie-Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, the minister needs to apologize to veterans for the shameless attack on them. To compare his experience transitioning out of television to those who are transitioning out of Canada's military is shameless. I'm going to give the minister one more chance. Will he apologize to Canada's veterans for saying that he understands what transitioning is like because he transitioned out of television and not Canada's military?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
I imagine for anyone who is suffering from mental illness or, is struggling with asking for help, that this room is just about your worst nightmare. Shouts about comparing yourself to others or who do you think you are and misconstruing comments. I have always said I would never compare my experience to a veteran's experience, nor would I compare it to anybody else's, nor would I compare it to the 1/4 or 1/5 of members in this chamber who are suffering or will suffer. But, Mr. Speaker, I say to Canadians and especially veterans, if you need help, please ignore what you hear in this place. Most people are kind and they've got your back. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. Mr. Speaker, the opioid crisis claims more victims with each passing day. The situation's worsening in Montreal and elsewhere, and the Liberals claim to be doing everything in their power to tackle the crisis, but it's not true. They could be doing so much more. Will the Liberals finally declare, as the NDP has been demanding for 2 years now, that this is a national public health emergency and invest more to truly solve the problem? The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We take this crisis very seriously. We're taking responsibility. We're making huge investments with the provinces and territories. We recognize that Canadians need services in the field, and that's why we're finalizing bilateral agreements with the provinces and territories so there are more resources out there in the field. Declaring a public health emergency would not give us any further tools, and that's why we haven't done so. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the number of Canadian lives lost to the opioid epidemic is sobering, staggering, and growing. New Democrats have offered 5 positive proposals to tackle this escalating crisis. Declare a national public health emergency, fund overdose prevention sites, invest more in treatment, decriminalize and medically regulate supply, and hold opioid manufacturers to account. Given that opioid deaths have risen every single year of this government's term, why won't Liberals act on these proposals to save lives?
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, once again, we recognize that we are facing a public health crisis when it comes to the opioid epidemic, and our government has been taking actions. We continue to work with provinces and territories. We've made significant investments in the area of harm reduction, and we are also in the process of negotiating bilateral agreements with provinces and territories. We want to ensure that there are more services on the ground, let it be providing funding for supervised consumption sites or any other services that provinces need. We are a partner at the federal level, and we will continue to work with individuals on the ground. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Willowdale.
Mr. Speaker, there is no resource more precious to the residents of Toronto than Lake Ontario. Yet last week, the Government of Ontario unexpectedly fired the provincial appointees to the board of Waterfront Toronto. For over a decade, Waterfront Toronto has spearheaded the revitalization of the waterfront area by developing parks, streets, and new neighborhoods with affordable housing. The rash dismissal of the chair of the board of the waterfront has everyone in Toronto worried and concerned. So I'd like to ask the minister.
The time has concluded, and I don't hear something that relates to the responsibility of the government. So I'm going to go on. Excuse me.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, those who fought with ISIS should be held responsible for their crimes. The Prime Minister should have come up with a plan to put these murderers behind bars, but he failed to do so. Instead, he serves up lame excuses and throws in the towel. The Prime Minister's lack of leadership is shameful, and his inaction should worry all Canadians. If the Prime Minister is lax in fighting terrorists, who's going to do the job?
Safety.
Mr. Speaker, those who have abandoned Canadian democracy to travel to a war zone and engage with terrorists need to take full responsibility for their criminal conduct. Our intelligence, security, and police agencies will investigate terrorists by all possible means with the absolute goal of charging, prosecuting, and putting them in jail to the full extent of the law, Mr. Speaker, and we have done that more so than our predecessors.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Those are pretty tough words for somebody who hasn't got the job done, Mr. Speaker. The reality is that this government has tabled legislation that makes it more difficult for law enforcement officials to do their jobs.
Absolutely.
They have invested in de-radicalization as opposed to trying to get these people behind bars where they belong. Mr. Speaker, they just tabled a report in Parliament where half of the whole 5 pages of their grand plan were excuses as to why they can't do anything. It's their job to keep Canadians safe, not to respect the feelings or poetry lessons of ISIS terrorists. When will this government get serious and lock up these genocidal maniacs?
Order. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In case you missed it, every aspect
Order. I'll invite all members to show respect for this place and for the chair. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I simply want to point out that every aspect of the preamble to that question is bogus and false. The fact of the matter is, with respect to returnees from those war zones, under the previous government, under whom most of them returned, not a single charge was laid, Mr. Speaker. Not one. Under our government in the past 3 years, we've identified 4 cases, we've charged 4, we've convicted 2, and 2 others are pending.
Yes.
Order. Now, member for order.
Order. Honourable member for please come to order.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, all this government's answers about a self-balancing budget have also been bogus and false. Mr. Speaker, this morning it was confirmed that this Prime Minister will stop at nothing to bend the rules to his own advantage. One thing was clear from the Liberal member for Saint-Léonard Saint-Michel's speech this morning. He said at all times, in all circumstances, he had complied with all the whip's instructions. Did the Prime Minister or a member of his cabinet order the member not to resign before a certain date in order to avoid a by-election? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, each member is accountable to his own constituents for his work in Ottawa. The member in question publicly announced his intention to and indicated what work he would be doing on behalf of his community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Liberal member for St. Leonard St. Michel broke his silence today and confessed that even though he announced he was resigning in April, someone else decided he should wait until January 22nd to make it official. The Liberals' new Election Act states that the Prime Minister doesn't have to call a by-election for any seats that become vacant after January 21st. What a coincidence. Why has the Prime Minister rigged the date of the member's resignation to keep the people for St. Leonard St. Michel from having the by-election that they deserve?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Parliament is responsible to their constituents for their work in Ottawa. The member in question has publicly indicated his intention and has shared the issues on which he will be working on behalf of his community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Sherbrooke. Mr. Speaker, for 3 years now, the Liberals have been saying they're working hard to fight tax evasion and tax havens. But nothing has changed, and everyone knows it's all a smokescreen. The Revenue Minister herself accepted a donation from an influential Liberal whose name appears in the Paradise Papers. Suddenly it all starts to make sense. You don't bite the hand that feeds you, or that funds you. What signal does the minister responsible for CRA think it sends Canadians when she accepts money from people implicated in the Paradise Papers? Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, what my colleague is attempting to do is indirectly link me to the Paradise Papers. If he wants to play that game, I would invite him to look in his own backyard, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Singh and Mr. Mulcair and the member for Timmins James Bay and Skeena Bulkley Valley all accepted donations from individuals whose names appear in the Paradise Papers. In my riding, I'm going to concentrate on what we do best, which is combat tax evasion.
Honourable member for order. Order. Could have a shorter question period, I suppose. The honourable member for Windsor-Tecumseh.
Mr. Speaker, we're approaching the one-year anniversary since the Liberals announced their intent to create a Canadian ombudsperson for a responsible enterprise. 1 year, no ombudsperson, no mandate. Yet again, it looks like the Liberals just wanted to hold a nice press conference and that would be it. Canadian Supreme Court decisions, modern slavery legislation abroad, they're advancing corporate responsibility, and still, no action from this Liberal government. What's the point of making an announcement when nothing happens for a year?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Speaker, the Honourable member will be pleased to know that corporate social responsibility is a very important matter for this government and for all members of the House. They know that the practices of Canadian corporations overseas are a subject of interest to this government and certainly to other members opposite, including the one who just asked the question. Very soon, we will have the pleasure of announcing the successful candidate in a competition that has shown there is great interest from coast to coast to coast in this very important job.
The honourable member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Mr. Speaker, Northern Gateway approved by Conservatives and then killed by Liberals. The Liberals then put a double standard against Energy East, killing that project. They failed on the Trans Mountain expansion, bought it, and now not one shovel in the ground. Billions of dollars in GDP and hundreds of thousands of jobs gone or in jeopardy. Investment is fleeing the country. This is the record of the Prime Minister's failed oil and gas sector policies. And if that wasn't enough, we have the Liberal No More Pipelines bill. Will the Prime Minister deliver a Christmas miracle and kill Bill C-69?
The Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, we understand the challenges that are being faced by Alberta's energy sector. We're working very, very closely with both province of Alberta and Saskatchewan to explore a number of options, including moving forward on the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion in the right way, engaging in meaningful consultation with Indigenous peoples. We are the government, Mr. Speaker, that invested $4.5 billion to save that pipeline, and every member of that party voted against that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. The honourable member for Lakeland.
The Liberals aren't listening to all Indigenous people, and they don't speak for all of them, just like when they killed Northern Gateway and the 31 Indigenous partnerships. That's why 15 leaders from the National Chiefs Coalition, the Indian Resource Council, and the Eagle Spirit Chiefs Council, who represent hundreds of First Nations and Métis who want to build their own pipeline, are here today. The Liberals' oil export ban, C-48, and their No More Pipelines, Bill C-69, block their way. If the Liberals keep ignoring provinces, economists, and industry, will they at least listen to those leaders and to most Treaty 7 chiefs? And will they kill their No More Pipelines, Bill C-69, yes or no?
Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, our
our natural resource sector is an important source of good middle-class jobs for all Canadians. We remain committed to a renewed relationship with Indigenous peoples based on recognition, respect, cooperation, and partnership. And I'm delighted to report that many chiefs and leaders of BC coastal First Nations were here last week in Ottawa to express support for Bill C-48 and to express concerns about efforts by, quote, people claiming to represent a unified voice in the Northwest whose intentions are to undermine the implementation of the moratorium.
The honourable member for Edmonton Riverbend.
We've got a whole list of people, Mr. Speaker, who are against those two bills. First, the Transport Minister claims he's never heard the concerns of the transportation industry about the Liberal carbon tax. Today, when Air Canada and WestJet expressed their concerns again, supported the idea of the study of the harm of the carbon tax, the Liberal members voted it down. They're hiding the environmental impact assessment. They're ignoring calls from the premiers to cancel the carbon tax. So why are they now blocking businesses from being able to talk about this job-killing carbon tax?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for the Ministry of Environment.
On our side of the House, we do not believe that pollution should be free. We are moving forward with a plan that's going to put a price on pollution and leave families better off at the end of the day. Mr. Speaker, I understand that the Conservatives don't want to take meaningful action on climate change, but I can't figure out why they insist that families they represent don't get this money. If they want to continue to dig in and avoid taking action on climate change, I'm going to be happy to continue this debate on this side of the House after the next election.
The honourable member for Whitby.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday marked the last day of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Over the past 16 days, we have reflected on the lives of survivors of violence and the lives of those we have lost. During this time, we also thought about the role we can all play to prevent and address gender-based violence, strengthen our communities, and build a better Canada. Can the Minister of Status of Women update this House on the actions our government is taking to end gender-based violence and build resilience?
The Honourable Minister.
I thank my honourable colleague from Whitby who knows that gender-based violence is preventable, and yet when we formed government there was no coordinated strategy to address it. Women's organizations were underfunded and their advocacy was silenced. Our government worked with survivors and experts to develop Canada's first strategy to address and prevent gender-based violence. We invested over $200 million to help implement it. Yesterday, we launched a call to support critical research to better understand gender-based violence. The first public call for research from Status of Women since the Harper Conservatives shut down its research branch in 2008.
The honourable member for Red Deer Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, the pain Tory Stafford's family had to endure when they lost their daughter is unthinkable, but the pain they've had to endure since then is absolutely outrageous. The Liberals refused to back down after they sanctioned the transfer of Terry Lynn McClintock to a resort-style healing lodge. Now they're justifying Michael Rafferty's transfer to a medium-security facility, which they deliberately concealed from Tory's family. It's clear that the interests of child killers are more important to these Liberals than the interests of victims and their families. Why is this Liberal government putting Tory's family through hell? Haven't they already been through enough?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, let me just point out that Rafferty is in a federal penitentiary with 2 fences, 3.5 meters high, 3 guard towers, human patrols, electronic surveillance. This prison also specializes in handling sex offenders. Rafferty is behind razor wire.
The honourable member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, the Veterans Affairs Minister keeps missing the mark. Today, he won't even apologize for comparing his own career transition to that of ex-military personnel transitioning to civilian life. And he missed it again last week in the Veterans Affairs Committee when he wouldn't commit to using the lapse spending at Veterans Affairs to improve services for Canada's veterans. The minister voted to end the practice of lapse spending at Veterans Affairs. So will he honour his commitment to spending all money allocated for veterans on veterans, yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Speaker, yesterday's announcement was on our commitment to the transition from the military to veterans' life. It is an extraordinarily difficult transition for many people in the military, and it is one that our side of the government is committed to helping veterans and their families make. we will not waver in our mission to make life better for veterans and their families. We will not be distracted by personal comments, innuendo, or the malignment of comments. We stay committed and focused on veterans and their families.
That's right. Honourable Member for Steveston, Richmond East.
Mr. Speaker, seniors make valuable contributions to our family, workplaces, and communities. And by 2036, seniors will represent close to 25% of the population. Can the Minister of Seniors please update this House on what our government is doing to ensure that our seniors remain active, informed, and engaged in our communities?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member from Steveston, Richmond East for the question. Our government has been working hard for seniors from the day we were elected. Last week, I was very pleased to announce that the call for proposals for the Pan-Canadian New Horizons for Seniors program is now open. This year, we've increased the funding to $5 million and increased the length of time for the projects to 5 years. Our government knows that these projects will go a long way to combat seniors' isolation and work towards inclusion. Mr. Speaker, we all benefit when seniors are engaged and active in our communities.
The Honourable Member for Barrie Innisfil.
At the Veterans Affairs Committee last Thursday, the Minister of Veterans Affairs continued his attack on veteran Sean Brueya when questioned why he publicly shamed Brueya in the media. He suggested Brueya's complaints about the Liberals were a result of mental health issues and anxiety. The Minister was defending his decision to shame Brueya after Brueya dared question the Liberal Pension for Life scheme that Finance Department officials confirmed involves no new money. Since the minister publicly attacked Sean Brueya, will he publicly apologize for his personal attack on Mr. Brueya?
The Minister.
The member well knows it's a case before the court, so no, I will not comment. But let me make a comment on Pension for Life, which the honourable member has, I think, has maligned. It is very real. On April 1st of 2019, we will be reintroducing a monthly tax-free pension for life. It is costed at $3.6 billion, Mr. Speaker, and it is very real. Thank you.
The
Honourable Member for Bécancour, Nicolette Sorel. Mr. Speaker, Via Rail prefers to give a $1 billion contract to a German multinational than to a Quebec company. The Transport Minister could have done 3 things for Quebec workers. He could have told Bombardier about the Siemens offer. He could have included a local economic spin-off as a contract awarding criterion. And he could have cancelled the RFP and started the process all over again. But he did nothing. Will the minister require VIA to revisit its decision and give Bombardier a chance to get the contract? Or is he going to stand by and let VIA announce on Friday that they're giving the contract to Germany? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, when awarding hundreds or millions or billions of Canadians' taxpayer dollars, we proceed carefully. When companies take part in an RFP, they know the criteria, the specific criteria, and the process from the get-go. What the opposition is asking us to do is politically interfere and to break our own laws, and that's unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, $100 billion for shipbuilding and practically nothing for Davie shipyards. Billions for Trans Mountain, for Muskrat Falls, for the auto sector in Ontario. And now, Via Rail is going to give a $1 billion train contract to a German multinational instead of a Quebec company. And Ottawa isn't lifting a finger. But the Transport Minister could do something. What's the point of having a transport minister? Why is he abandoning Bombardier's workers in La Pocatière? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, as we all know, Bombardier had the opportunity. It's a multinational player. They sell trains to Israel, India, Africa, and other places, even in the U.S. That's how it works. That's how international trade works. When you have a free trade deal, you have to respect the rules. If the Bloc has trouble understanding that concept, well, that's their problem. Let's all be grown-ups and represent our government.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question's for the Minister of Northern Affairs. Yesterday, Canada finally announced changes to the Nutrition North program. The additional funding and other changes are welcome. However, they have failed to fix the biggest problem with the program, its transparency and accountability. For example, the department has admitted the program subsidy received by some retailers higher than the freight rate that they are paying, which is why Nunavut believes some retailers are unjustly profiting from the subsidy. Will the Minister commit to finally fixing this problem before the spring budget? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister, Intergovernmental Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday our colleague from Labrador announced much-needed improvements to Nutrition North based on extensive engagement our government had with Northerners on how we can make perishable, nutritious food more affordable in Canada's north. As colleagues will know, the fall economic statement added $62.6 million of additional funding, but I absolutely share my colleague's concern with the need to add increased transparency. I've talked to him about that. I've talked to Northern Premiers about that, Mr. Speaker. We will bring more and further changes, and we'll start with the new Crown Inuit Working Group on Food Security.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Scott Fielding, Minister of Finance for the province of Manitoba. I would also like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Gordon Wyant, Minister of Education for the province of Saskatchewan. The honourable member for Willowdale is rising on a point of order.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to revert back to the question I posed earlier. As you know,
Order. What I'm looking for the member is his argument in the question of whether or not this is within federal government responsibility, not the question itself. Order.
Yes, as the Speaker is aware, the federal government funds Waterfront Toronto. So I'd like to pose a question to the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities.
So the member is making the argument, I gather, that Waterfront Toronto is in fact a federal agency. I'm going to allow the Minister of Infrastructure to respond.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for Willowdale and congratulate him for his passion, Mr. Speaker, and his great work. As one of the three partner governments overseeing Toronto Waterfront, we respect the work of the organization is doing to lead the development of the waterfront. We are committed to Waterfront Toronto, Mr. Speaker.